So what we really advocate for in the paper is the sort of the gender affirmative model of care.
I met with Dr. Rafferty. I knew the man a total of like 45 minutes, and he diagnosed me with gender dysphoria. And then the next appointment rolls around, and I get on hormones. They have a nurse practitioner teach me how to inject the hormones myself, and I was off. I was informed that at the time, the gender affirming care model wasn't even written yet. It was actively being written while I was a patient of him. So in hindsight, that makes me feel like a guinea pig. I was very much a girly girl. I loved sparkles and pink and Barbies and all that stuff, but I also liked dinosaurs and I liked Power Rangers. I was pretty heavily bullied as a child. I struggled a lot in school. A lot of my sensory needs were not met either. So I just kind of like smiled through it. At 7, I was sexually taken advantage of. Not taken advantage of, I was, raped, abused. I would wake up to it happening, and my perpetrator would just say, "Go back to sleep." And it really, messed me up for a lot of years. When I was 8, I started showing signs of puberty. My mom took me to a doctor, and he looked at my pubic hair and had to end up, touching the area and everything, and that was really traumatic. I felt like that moment in time really cemented my hatred for my female body. I'm a girl, and I guess this is what girls go through. Fast forward, I'm 11 years old. I am finally getting on the internet for the first time. I discover what being trans is.
Hi, my name is Ains. I use he, him pronouns, and this is my first day on testosterone. Today is my 4th week.
And of course, my young mind seeing that was this is an option for me. I can dissociate myself from being female and just be a different person. And I was like, this is it. This is it. This is gonna fix me. Maybe I hate myself so much because I should have been born a boy. So my dad gets in a relationship with a woman that lives in Rhode Island. I don't think he knew the gravity of what was happening until we moved there. I got advice from a post on Tumblr saying, hey, if you want to get what you want, like hormones, you gotta show them the gravity of the situation. So I said I attempted suicide, and then I survived, and then I got hospitalized. While I was there, the doctors were very affirming, and they sat my parents down, or kind of pin them to the wall, basically being like, hey, if you don't affirm your child is going to kill themselves. If you're a parent and you hear that, you're gonna say, I'll do anything I can to keep my child safe and happy. So, of course, my parents were like, we're gonna have to do it.
Kids rarely change their minds about their gender identity. To say 3- and 4-year-olds don't understand gender doesn't give our kids a lot of credit.
I, of course, am elated because I got prescribed testosterone. Dr. Rafferty did talk me through some of the side effects, but I was not told anything of how this is gonna affect me 3, 5, 10 years down the line if I continue doing testosterone. I was not told any of that. I'm 14, and my parents, not wanting me to kill myself, signed off on it. Rafferty also doubled as my psychiatrist, so he would adjust or refill my prescription antidepressants, and of course the testosterone. And of course I still had unchecked mental health issues my dad walked in on me trying to hang myself. And I stayed on hormones. He continued to prescribe me hormones. He continued to keep up my regimen after I tried to kill myself. Nothing was backpedaled or anything like that. Like, I don't even think there was a second thought.
At the end of the day, it is about validating each person's experience and allowing them to be more self-confident, allowing them to hopefully have a higher self-esteem because they feel like they can be themselves and that they're appreciated for it.
When I was 15, we moved back to Florida. He sent me with a year's worth of refills of testosterone and was like, go move back. That in itself, I feel like, is malpractice. He didn't even bother to give me a phone call. I don't think he checked up on me at all.
You know, making a decision today is followed up with a decision tomorrow and the next day and the next day to really continue to make sure we're headed in the right direction.
It was just kind of like, okay. So we were left to our own devices to find a doctor that would continue my care, and looking around here, that turned out to be like a failure because the only doctors that were here would only either do adults or were out of our insurance. Keep in mind, my insurance is covering this. Thank God they didn't cover like any medical procedures. I think my insurance not covering the surgeries kind of like saved my life in a way. Saved me from a lot of unnecessary pain and grief that I could have gone through. I would have done anything to just remove myself of my womanhood and my femaleness because it was taken away from me at a young age. I felt so disgusted with myself that I had these parts, and like this was the reason that I was taken advantage of. This wouldn't have happened to me if I was a boy. I was so increasingly desperate to get these surgeries, but at the same time, I was having doubts. In the trans community, there was definitely a big shame in detransitioning, because if you're a detransitioner, you're betraying every single one of us by detransitioning. And I was really scared to do that. And so I held off until 2020. The pandemic happened, literally that 2 weeks, where it was like 2 weeks off of school. I quit testosterone cold turkey and I never took it again. I still struggle a lot mentally and physically. You know, I'm going to therapy. I'm trying my best to stay afloat. I had to quit my job due to chronic pain and fatigue, and that's been very scary. I'm having to pay every time I go to my doctor. I'm having to pay for medication. I'm having to pay for laser hair removal that I really can't afford, but I feel like I need to do to like just help me feel better about the situation. I don't even like to think about my fertility. It is my greatest fear to go to the gynecologist and have them tell me that I can't have children over some decisions that were made when I was 14.
In Isabelle's case, we're suing her individual purported healthcare providers. Those would include, among others, Dr. Michelle Forcier and Dr. Jason Rafferty, who are pretty well-known figures in this space nationally. In Rafferty's case, due to his pen for the 2018 AAP policy statement that has truly set out what's become known as the gender affirmative care model in the United States. While he's working on this statement in real time, Dr. Rafferty and as well Dr. Forcier are treating Isabelle, applying new experimental guidelines, and knowing that she is hitting rock bottom, that the drugs are not improving her mental health, that she actually attempted suicide. And they went ahead anyways. They blew through every stop sign and not only continued to push the drugs on her, but continued to work on and ultimately publish a policy recommending the very guidelines that they could see in real time were having dramatically negative effects on Isabelle and presumably other patients.
Part of me wants to be so angry about it. Part of me wants to sob. I was a healthy kid. I was a physically healthy kid. If I was just evaluated a little more, this would have never happened. But it took you 45 minutes to change my entire life and give me irreversible health issues? I don't want these doctors to practice anymore. I really don't. I don't think they deserve to practice when they are ignoring the harm that they're doing. The lawsuits never fell in the realm of possibility because I was poor. I've kind of had to accept I'm going to lose people. It is social suicide to be doing this, but I feel like I'm going to meet better people along the way. So here's to hoping that everything's okay and that I can eventually have a family and continue living my life. Hopefully pain-free, hopefully fatigue-free, but I just hope that I get better and hopefully make a difference. I do want to make a difference, even if nothing comes out of it. I feel like I can talk about what's happened to me and make sure it doesn't happen to other young girls.